Amanda Knox, the American student who spent nearly 4 years in an Italian prison for a murder she didn't commit, is once again making headlines. This summer, she was reconvicted of slander for wrongfully accusing a man of killing her roommate. She already served enough time to satisfy that sentence. These days, the best-selling author, podcaster, advocate, and mother is living in a quiet corner of Washington state. But she's not been silent, using her voice to advocate for the wrongfully convicted still behind bars. We sat down with her ahead of her speech tonight at a benefit for the Great North Innocence Project here in Minneapolis. It's a conversation you'll see only on WCCO. How have you been? How is life for you these days?
Oh man, I'm a young mom, so you can imagine not a lot of sleep, a lot of cuddles, and I'm feeling really fortunate because, you know, back when I was on trial and in prison and everything, that was one of the hardest things to wrap my mind around, was the idea that I might not ever get to be a mom.
You have in-laws now, new neighbors that you'll meet, or parents of your kids' friends.
Yeah.
And all of those people probably know something about you or have a preconceived idea of who you are, or at least some details they've heard along the way. What is it like living that way?
I have had to adapt to the fact that the worst experience of my life is probably the first thing people ever know about me. And the difficulty of that doesn't go away. And I was very lonely for a really long time, because it made me feel like there was this huge distance between me and the rest of humanity. And what changed that was actually going to my first ever Innocence Network event, where I met other wrongly convicted people, and I finally grasped, like, oh my God, this isn't just a personal tragedy for me, it is a societal tragedy for so many people.
What have you learned about wrongful convictions in America?
Well, first of all, they typically do not resolve themselves in 4 or 8 years like mine did. Typically, a person who is wrongly convicted here in the United States spends at least 14 years in prison, if not more. Typically, they do not look like someone like me. Anyone can be wrongly convicted, anyone can be wrongly accused, but typically you're going to see men, and men of minorities, men who have mental illness. These are people who are being targeted and who find themselves in positions of not being able to defend themselves properly. And I've met exonerees from all around the world, and there's an immediate understanding of, I see you and I know, and you don't have to explain a thing to me.
Can I ask you, as an exoneree yourself, when that moment of relief came for you, what did that feel like?
I just immediately called Raffaele, who was on trial alongside me, and I just jumped up and down and was like, we're free. Like, the feeling of no longer being hunted down was, I felt I was on the moon. I was just jumping.
You haven't shied away from your past. And I'm sure that there were moments where you're tempted to just quietly fade into the background, because that was a choice I'm sure you had. But instead you've leaned in and leaned into this advocacy work. Why do that?
When I wake up today and I look at everything that I have, everything that's been given to me, whether I ask for it or not, I ask myself, what is the best thing that I can do with this? And I believe that leaning into being Amanda Knox is ultimately doing good for the world in a way that hiding and changing my name and pretending to be someone else that this didn't happen to wouldn't.
If you'd like to see our full interview with Amanda Knox, we'll be streaming it tomorrow morning at 11:30 on CBS News Minnesota.